I would like to call to order this meeting of Wednesday, August 17th, 2022. If we could please first stand for the invocation, and the invocation will be brought to us by Pastor Kevin Broomfield. We thank you for being with us from O Street Church of God, and also want to recognize the First Lady, Miss Broomfield, who is a city employee and always there making sure we're in tip-top shape. So we thank you for your service as well, Pastor Broomfield.
Let us pray. Most gracious and eternal God, we thank you, God, for your grace, your mercy, your love, and your kindness toward us. We thank you, God, for this opportunity, God, to come before your throne. God, as we come tonight, God, we come in that matchless name of Jesus the Christ. And Father, we pray, God, that you would order our steps and direct our paths on tonight. God, we pray, God, that you would give wisdom and understanding to our leaders tonight, God, that they might make godly choices, God, that would be beneficial to the city of Brunswick, God, and not only the city, but the people of Brunswick. God, we pray, God, that you would bless them. We ask that you would lead and guide them now, for this is our prayer, Father, that we ask in your precious Son, Jesus' name, and every heart said amen.
Amen.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Broomfield, we want to thank you for being with us this evening. Thank you for your continued service, not only to the city and your work that you do, but also your work that you do in the community, touching all of our citizens. So we appreciate you. Come back anytime, and we would love to have those words of wisdom at any point in time in a meeting. So we thank you for being here. We will now have public hearings, we will now have the adoption of the August 17, 2022 regular meeting agenda. I would like to propose one change, that we defer item number 7, which is the consider approval of a designation of Gordon Street, that we defer that action into a later time, that the city can start to work in a cohesive manner to come to some true regulations and guidelines as we think about the street naming process. And so that is the only deferment that I would put forth, and the only change, and I would put that forth to the commission.
I'll make a motion to defer item number 7.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. And now we have before us the amended agenda that we will open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented and amended.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to public hearing. City of Brunswick proposed 2022 millage rate. City Manager McDuffie.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to present information regarding the proposed property tax increase and adoption of the 2022 millage rate. This public hearing is being conducted as required by state law OCGA 48-5-32 to officially notify the public of the action being proposed, and also provide an opportunity for public input and feedback regarding the adoption of the millage rate for the city of Brunswick, which governs our taxation process. The 2022 digest consists of real and personal property of $458,577,360, motor vehicles in the amount of $1,119,950, and mobile homes valued at $56,680. That is for a total gross digest of $459,753,990. The digest is adjusted by exemptions in the amount of $52,869,000 $677, which leaves a net digest value of $406,884,313. This is an 11.5% increase over the previous digest for 2021, which was valued at $236,654,236. The gross millage that is being published is at a rate of 32.748 mills. This is, however, adjusted by a rollback of the local option sales tax of 19.529 mills, which leaves a net millage rate of 13.219. This is the same millage rate that has been approved for the last 8 years by the city. The state requires that the city also calculate a rollback millage rate, which equates to the millage that the city would have had if it did not have any increase in the digest. The increases in the digest were 28.1 million in added value and 14.0 million in changes to the digest. If you calculate the millage without these changes, the millage rate would be 12.304, which is 0.915 less than the millage rate being proposed. But the city is not changing the millage rate. The millage rate increase over the rollback rate has to be reported as an increase in taxes if it's not rolled back. Because of the difference, the state requires multiple hearings to be conducted to notify the public and review the calculated increase. The increased millage of the current millage of 13.219 is approximately 7.4% higher than the rollback millage of 12.304. In homes that are the same value for 2021 as they are for 2022 will not see an increase in taxes. The only properties that will see an increase are properties that gain value or valued higher than they were in the previous year, plus properties that may have had additions to those properties or new properties that were added to the digest. As previously stated, the millage rate is not increasing, so therefore, persons whose property values did not change, the taxes will remain the same. At this time, I'd answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now open it to the commission for questions.
On the exemption amounts, I know that you have homestead exemption, elderly exemption. What are all of the inclusive exemptions in this 52?
The city does not have a homestead. The county has a homestead exemption. These exemptions are for properties that are kind of related to those properties that are exempt. So those exemptions, there's a whole list or categories of projects and properties that those exemptions are relative to, but I don't have that list in front of me.
So do they include like the churches and stuff like that? or-
No, this is not exemptions for properties that don't have taxes.
Okay.
That's a different category. There are properties that are exempt from having taxes assessed. And that's what the churches, the hospitals and things and public buildings, those things. These are actual exemptions for various reasons that the properties are exempt
Okay.
or the taxes are exempt.
Okay, that do have, but they have exemptions.
Right.
Any additional questions from the commission?
I just want to ask a general question. What would it take for this time next year, Regina? What kind of philosophy, what kind of change would it take for us to at least accept the rollback here, or perhaps even to be able to reduce the millage rate that we have employed here for the last 6 years
You're asking what it would take to roll back the
to,
millage?
to reduce taxes.
I mean,
What
bas-
kind of thinking would we have to do? What kind of
basically, we
work?
would just have to look at the budget and see if there are, sufficient revenues without having the increase in taxes. The tax increase equates to about $500,000. So basically looking at, where we are in the budget and what our expenses are, what additional things that we're trying to do or support with the dollars that we have, and make an adjustment to that fact.
Do we have in place what it takes to be working that way on a daily basis?
Certainly.
With that thinking, that mindset that we're gonna try to reduce things and lower taxes?
Well, I think we always operate efficiently. What we have the mindset of is making sure that we are properly maintaining the city and the city infrastructure as needed. And with today's market salaries increases and things like that, health insurance increases, we are looking at things that can make us more efficient. I don't think the city is operating in a manner that's not saving money. We do, in all of our procurement, we get prices to make sure we are getting bids on things and getting quotes and getting quality with the things that we purchase. But I mean, it would basically take just looking at the budget and where and if we need to make some adjustments.
I guess that's part of what the finance committee could be doing too, would be involved in that process perhaps a little bit.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, since the budget is proposed and created by my office, it would take direction from the commission if we were to propose the budget to incorporate some type of tax increase, then we would look at what we could do to follow that direction.
But I'm saying that the finance committee looking at expenditures and being made aware of different expenditures during the year could help to reduce and make people more aware of where we are perhaps.
I'm not sure, if that is
Well,
the process.
how
that
much
would
does a gallon of gasoline cost you?
cost me or
The
the
city
city?
of Brunswick.
I'm not sure exactly.
That's what I'm talking about.
Basically,
Hold on just a minute. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's a basic. And we should all know what it costs us to operate city vehicles. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm really not. I'm trying to make a point. And I'm not a mailman either. But we need to be in a position this time in 12 months to do a rollback or to have a tax abate perhaps. We've been 6 years at this millage rate. So why wouldn't it help to know a little bit more about the day-to-day operations? We've got a finance committee. Be mindful, we never had a finance committee for years and years and years, and now we have one.
well, to be honest with you, Commissioner, gas rates change every day.
Sure.
And I probably could tell you something right now that would be changed in 30 minutes. So, I think
Wait a minute,
to
hold on.
that
I
degree,
use that for an
excuse
example.
me, can I finish?
Yes, ma'am, but let me say, I use that for example. They're all there. You've got utility bills. You've got all
Do you
kinds of.
really think it's prudent for the finance committee to watch the electric bill every month and the
I didn't
gas
say
bill
that.
and the fuel?
I
That's
didn't-
what you just said.
No, I said you could be mindful of it and you could be aware of it, where they are in the budget. That's what I suggest. It's just a suggestion. You're the city.
Well,
manager.
we watch those things every day.
What I'm asking for is how can we get to a tax increase? I'll offer a couple of those things that I know are manageable. I know that. They're very manageable.
There's a couple of, basically, what I stated was that the city does have the opportunity to roll back taxes if so desired. And we would have to adjust the budget accordingly.
No, I would guess I would be the only one up here to ask to do that, but I'm not asking that. I understand what you sent out in preparation for accepting this millage rate. And I don't disagree with it, but it's stuff that sometime you and I have talked about different things, particularly a big item that's in there, huge item that you mentioned in there. But I think that we have some ways that we could be in a different posture this time next year. God forbid the inflation gets abated and we have no recession. And it's debatable as to whether we're in stagflation now or we're in a recession. I mean, nobody knows. Our environment has changed so much, and we really need to watch it on a close day-to-day basis and be sure that we can, I would like to reduce taxes, not just accept the rollback. So,
I think that's, the commission's decision.
but you've got to manage it though. You're right. It is our decision, but you've got to manage it. Thank you.
I want to say really quick, number one, thank you for the information that you put together. From what I've seen throughout this budgetary process, that the city is absolutely running as lean as possible. It was a time where, I think a lot of people who were a part of the times coming out of those really lean years knows when we, didn't have any reserves and was kind of living check to check as far as the city is concerned. And the city has strengthened that position. However, what I believe is to ensure that the city continues to grow, but to also ensure that the city continues to provide the level of services that they are providing at this point in time, as well as continue to pay safety officials at a competitive rate to try and ensure that all of our employees are continue to be paid at a competitive rate, and that we have the dollars to attract not only the best and the brightest of individuals to come live here, which is making sure we upkeep of our infrastructure and things, but also attract the best and the brightest of new ingenuity and new entrepreneurs. And to that tune, I feel like not only this commission, but previous commissions have done an amazing job keeping their eyes on the dollars that pass throughout the budget. So I want to applaud this commission, applaud the work of our city manager as she's put forward, I think, a smart and measured suggestion to the commission, but also has really put together a streamlined and smart budget for the city. Hearing that, is there any other questions from the commission? Hearing none. Thank you, city manager. Hearing
you.
none, we will now.
Appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. We will now open it for, we will now open the public hearing portion of this. So anyone from the general public, please feel free to step forward. Hearing none, we will now close the public hearing portion. Thank you. We will now move on to recognitions, presentations, and award. Mr. Ryan Moore, President and CEO of Golden Isles Development Authority, to give an update regarding the organization's programs and initiatives. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate being here, Commission. Thank y'all for allowing me the time to come and speak a little bit about the Golden Isles Development Authority and some of the things that we're doing. I did send over a presentation. I don't know if that was received. That's okay. While they pull that up, I'll just mention a few things. just for those that are in the audience or maybe tuned in online, I think this is an online meeting. The Golden Isles Development Authority, been around since 1963. We are charged with facilitating growth of jobs and investment in the Golden Isles area. We promote economic prosperity, and that's essentially what we're here for, is to bring prosperity to the area. We traditionally have done that through industrial development. We do own and operate industrial parks and spend a lot of time growing our industrial base and making sure that they have what they need to grow here in the Golden Isles. But we also have other priorities that we'll get into in a minute. We are one of the shared vision partners in the community, and we take that very seriously. You'll see. I'm sorry. And I'll speak to that a few times in the presentation, just the collaborative way that we go about our work. We really like to partner with other organizations and make sure that we're all coordinated in our efforts, not redundant, not duplicative, but moving forward and helping the community grow. Getting close. So in that vein, just from a shared vision standpoint, I've really enjoyed working with Regina over the past couple of years now. Regina, has it been 2 years? Congratulations. We work well with the city staff and appreciate y'all's support of what they do and what we do. So I'll go to the next slide, and this is probably the biggest news that's not yet an announcement. Many of you have heard there's a small travel center coming to exit 42 on I-95. We're very excited about this. It's Buc-ee's has not made the formal announcement, and they won't do that until they break ground. But I can say that they do own the property, and they've gone through their permitting. They're coordinating with their engineers now to put together their timeline, but we're hopeful that that happens really, really soon. But what we were able to do in conjunction with the county commission is to provide $3 million to improve the interchange at exit 42 and the public right of way along Highway 99. So that $3 million is coming from the county. We'll invest that in public right of way. Every dollar will be publicly spent in public infrastructure. And then we've worked with Buc-ee's to create a payment in lieu of taxes, a pilot program that will pay the county back that initial $3 million investment. But that investment will go to the benefit of the entire interchange. And we're already seeing all four corners of that interchange are already under contract or actively being developed by a new owner. So, I mean, this has been really big news from a development standpoint. Buc-ee's is a tremendous organization. They treat their employees really well. They pay very well. And within 5 years of them coming to an area, generally the entire interchange around where they locate is built out. So a lot of good commercial and residential opportunities will follow this and take advantage of that investment in public infrastructure that we're being able to make. And again, that was the county commission is providing those dollars, and we really appreciate their support for the project. Just some other things that have happened this year. You may have heard about Live Oak Fiber. This is a fiber company that's committed to Glenn County. They're going to bring fiber optic capability to every home and business in the Golden Isles over a period of time. They plan to start making physical investment in the dirt in October of this year. So this is coming very quickly. They already have a website set up. Please go to their website. They have a place where you can go put in your address and say, I'm interested. Are you in my area? But what that really does is put you on a list, and they start tracking how many people are interested in a certain area. And that'll dictate where they make their investments. But they'll invest about $60 million in the county. They'll bring the fastest internet in the nation to our community, 10 gig speeds. And their pricing so far, from what we've seen, it's not publicly published yet, but it's very competitive, and it'll be a big boom to the economy, just by way of people being able to have an alternative to the current providings of fiber optic connectivity in the community and high-speed internet. Simrise is a business on Colonel's Island, a chemical company. They make fragrances and other things for chemical companies. So they're a first-tier supplier to a lot of chemical companies. They came to us last year and said, you know, we need to expand. Our operations have grown. We need a new line. So we issued bonds for Simrise, $19.8 million. And they were able to add a new line to their operations. So it was a $20 million investment in the county. A handful of jobs came along with that, 2 or 3 jobs, but they are very technical engineering type positions. So incremental growth, which is always good. MAP International, we announced, is building an additional 40,000 square foot. For those of you that aren't familiar, MAP International is a nonprofit that operates in our industrial park, and they distribute pharmaceuticals all around the world. It's a great organization. They do really wonderful things, and they were growing. So we were able to help them. We're going to, through a very creative solution, we're going to end up building a build-to-suit for them to lease from us for a period of time. And it will eventually be theirs. They've already chosen their contractors. We should have a groundbreaking on that in October as well. That'll end up being a $6 to $8 million investment all told. So again, incremental growth and things going in the right direction.
Brian, is that on their existing campus or is that, because I know they kind of got a little constrained with Flexi property?
Yeah, so they're at the corner of Sidney Lanier Boulevard and Glencoe Parkway. And they do have enough room behind them to expand. So it'll be a separate facility, but it'll be within 10 foot of their existing building. 20
Right,
foot.
and they do pharmaceuticals and medical supplies.
And medical supplies. That's
And
correct.
do a heck of a job at it. Really
They,
do.
they do. And they have a great group of volunteers here locally. They coordinate with I don't know how many people, but a lot of people in the community to help send these supplies out. So great organization. We're glad to see them grow. The picture on the bottom looks like it's from the Wizard of Oz, maybe the tornado's coming, but that's actually the Warehouser facility on 341. So we're really proud of this. This was a vacant lot, used to be the Georgia State Patrol and Driver Services facility. They had vacated that lot, raised the facility. It was just an empty lot and donated it to the county. The county didn't have any immediate plans for it. So we were able to take that site, clear it, take title, put it in the brownfields program, remediate it, had some underground storage tank issues. So we removed about an Olympic swimming pool sized area of dirt offsite, refilled, and then sold it to Warehouser. And they're putting a $2 million facility with 40 people working in the facility. And it's nearing completion. They're getting close, but we were able to take title to the facility. Well, come up with all the documentation, the MOU, the sales contracts, take title, remediate all of the issues, environmental issues on site, engineer the site and sell it to Warehouse. And we did all of that in 9 months. So we're very, very proud of how quickly we were able to put that together. We do have a great team of engineers and partners that we work with to make that happen, but we were moving very quickly. And at one point, Warehouser sent back an email and said, hold on a second, we just can't keep up. And I've never had anyone tell a governmental organization to please slow down, but we were in that position. Moving on to the next. So how we're structured every 2 years, our board, and as you know, our board is a 5-member board. They're appointed jointly by the city and the county. Every 2 years, annually, we come together for a strategic planning session, but every 2 years, we spend a little more time developing priorities. So we're on a 2-year work plan or a 2-year strategic plan. And then annually, we have a work plan. So these are the priorities for this particular year: new business attraction, marketing, talent development, site development, and entrepreneurship. And I'll go through those now. From a new business attraction standpoint, some things that have happened last year. It was a really interesting year. We saw over $80 million in new capital investment with Live Oak and some of the others that I mentioned earlier. But more importantly, maybe we've seen a 53% increase in the number of projects year over year that we're working. I mean, that's tremendous. That's a lot of flow just in the last 6 months, given the Hyundai announcement and some other things that are happening. What we have in the pipeline is huge. We're almost at $20 billion of potential projects. We've got 7 different projects that are multi-billion dollars that are looking in this area, and 2 or 3 that we're shortlisted and they're real. So we're very excited about where that will go. This year was more about getting back out and getting in front of decision makers. It's been an interesting few years, as you know, and not everybody was accessible. Zoom is great, but it's very hard to develop a relationship with someone over a computer screen. So we're getting back out and we're getting back to developing those relationships and just how our kind of strategy for this. We're a small organization. We've got 3 staff members and a financial consultant. So yeah, we'd like to go out and meet every Fortune 500 company in the United States and knock on their doors and tell them to come to Brunswick. That's probably not an efficient use of our time. So we spend a lot of time talking to site selection consultants and brokers, and then project managers at the state level. The way that the state is organized, it's a very top-down approach. Most of the larger industrial projects come to us through the state in conjunction with a site selector. So again, spent a lot of time rekindling those relationships and revisiting people this past year, but certainly are seeing the results of that and the number of projects that we're seeing and the value. Where we're headed, I think this is going to be a tremendous year for us. The Hyundai announcement, if you haven't heard, that's $5.5 billion invested in an EV assembly plant in Ellabelle, Georgia, just outside of Bryan County. They're going to employ 8,000 people. We're working with the state's delegate to their supplier list. There's about 90 suppliers that supply that kind of facility, or 90 that will supply this particular facility. And automotive suppliers are set up in tiers. Tier 1's the most important, and then tier 2 supplies tier 1. There's about 9 tiers. But what we're finding out is that tier 1, 2, and 3 will need to be right by the facility. They'll need to be just in time and need to be able to coordinate well with the facility. But once you get down to 7, 8, 9, a lot of those companies want to be an hour away from the plant so that they don't have to compete for workforce. So I think that bodes well for us, and we're doing everything that we can to get our sites ready and be prepared when they come. Marketing. This has been another good year for us. Just over the past few years, we've gone through an effort to rebrand and get the brand out and have some brand recognition. I think we've done a really good job with that. All of our print collateral, media, social media, we've revamped everything. So this year was the continuation of that, and we've actually been able to grow our social media following year over year, 150%. So that's tremendous. We've done a good job of getting out in the community, spreading the word, and people are following our social media. So we've continued that marketing success, that branding effort. And this particular year, it's more about the sites for us. We've got a brand, we've got good marketing collateral, but we really need to focus in on our sites. And one thing that I'm excited about, we've got a new application on our website. GIS planning provides this. So if you look at the screen, the left side is what you'll currently see when you go to our site and need to look at a particular piece of property. You'll pull up a PDF with some information. What we're going to transition to is a much more interactive product. You'll be able to search demographics and engineering and see videos of the site. So it's going to be very, very interactive. So this year, our marketing efforts are focused on showing our sites in the best way possible and making sure that all of our information is absolutely accurate and up to date. Our next priority, talent development. As you know, we banded together with the Chamber of Commerce and went through a process of creating a talent development strategy for the entire community. That was done in concert with a committee. The committee is still around, and I'm happy to say that our first year goals, we were 95%. We completed 95% of them, and with the exception of one goal, we knocked and ticked all of the boxes for year one. So we've regrouped, reorganized, and we have a new set of priorities, set of goals for year two. We're going to start executing on those. What's next? So we recently signed an MOU with the school system, GICA, and Coastal Pines Technical College. The Development Authority is going to co-fund about a third of the salary for our new College and Career Academy CEO. And in exchange for that, about a third of their work plan will be executing this strategy. So we're taking what the community has told us that we need to do. One of the things was you need to hire somebody to be in charge of this. And we're going to partner with the College and Career Academy to make that happen. And I think that's, again, going back to that collaborative effort, that collaborative approach, I think this is going to be really good for everybody. And we'll be able to get a really high quality person in here to execute on some of these goals. So that's still in the works. We're still looking for that individual. If you know anybody, it's got a workforce development background, is interested in the CEO position for the College and Career Academy, certainly send them our way. Just some other things that we do internally outside of the strategy. We created an initiative called Keep Glenn Running, which is an initiative that makes sure that parents, teachers, and students all understand the career opportunities that exist in Glenn County. We see so many kids graduate, go to college, go somewhere else, and then they have to figure out a way to come back. Well, a lot of times, those particular individuals don't necessarily need a 4-year degree to find a meaningful career right here. If you're a nurse or a welder or an electrician in Glenn County, you can pave your own way, and it's a great, meaningful career, and there's an easy way to get there with our Career Academy. So we're pushing this message out. We get that out to about 10,000 students every year. In particular, in 10th grade, every 10th grader gets a career packet of information. It's stuffed by the teachers, delivered by the students, and the parents have to sign for it. So without knowing it, our audience was tailored for that particular package. So we stuff our information in there to make sure it goes out. We've got a great brand and a website, social media presence, and we're going to keep that up. One other just interesting initiative that came out of all of this is This Girl Can, which I don't know if you're familiar with it. This Girl Can is a program that shows non-traditional girls careers to females in the school system. So we had welding and machining was the first cohort of girls that went through the program, and they come with a parent or a guardian, and they spend several weeks making something, welding, bending metal. And we actually had one of these of the first cohort after that was really excited about it and went on to the welding program at the College and Career Academy. Would have never thought she was interested, but is now doing really well. So the first cohort was successful. We've done 3 now, and they're even talking about expanding it to non-traditional jobs for male students as well. So really interesting, creative way to open students' eyes to what's available, the careers that are available in the community. Site development is a priority that's near and dear to my heart. That's probably one of the most important things that we can do is to have sites that are available for people when they come. So one site development accomplishment for this year, we've rekindled our partnership with the owners of Trade Winds, which is the 650 or so acres next to our 70 acres at exit 42. So in total, we now have 750 acres. And we're promoting that, marketing that as an entire site. We've got a master plan for the full 750 acres. When you come to town, you don't get shown 650 acres or 70. You look at the entirety of it, and we're very coordinated in our marketing. We've hired a common broker, Newmark Phoenix out of Jacksonville, who'll be handling that for us. So we're very excited about that prospect. Again, that's kind of a marketing thing. It's kind of a site development piece, but there's more to come, the actual investment in the site, and we're excited about that too. Our partners are very open to how we might move that piece of property forward. Given everything that's happening with Buc-ee's and the surroundings, we're in a good position. So excited about that. We continue to invest in engineering at the airport. If you're not familiar, the airport's about 2,000 acres. There's 600 or so acres north of the runway. Half of that is developable. So you've got 300 to 500 acres that would make a really nice site for aviation related companies. So we've gone through the process of delineating the wetlands. And if you're not familiar, it's a long, arduous task, about $100,000 that we spent to do that. And we'll keep ticking those boxes. So next will be endangered species reports and cultural resources. So getting that engineering package so that when someone comes to town, we can tell them that they can put a shovel in the ground in 60 days and not 6 months. And that's a big deal. So we'll continue to do that. And we are designing a spec building. So we've seen a lot of 30 to 50,000 square foot projects come through, and there just isn't any product in town. We don't have, I can't remember the last, or I couldn't name the most recent building that was built in Glenn County. Everything is 3rd or 4th generation. So our board has decided that it needs to be built and somebody needs to build it. And if the private sector isn't doing it, then that's something we should do. So we're designing it now. The board hasn't pulled the trigger on construction, but hopefully we'll get that started here real soon. And hopefully the cost of gas and site work and windows will come down eventually.
It's important.
uh,
Highly important.
Another priority is entrepreneurship. This was a new priority for us, and really we were filling somewhat of a void in our talent development strategy. Once we identified all of the assets and listed those and looked at the things that we were doing in town, there were some gaps. So we filled some of those with a launch at SCOJET pilot program. We participate in global entrepreneurship, created a women in entrepreneurship group. We did inventory those assets and created some digital marketing so that we can be professional and speak to entrepreneurship in the community a little bit better. One thing that happened last year that's totally new is the Lucas Center for Entrepreneurship at the College of Coastal Georgia. We recognize that's probably, that is the right place for entrepreneurship, and they're doing a great job. So we want to support that. So I see us being more of a partner in that role going forward. But some of the things that the results that they're having, I know the first accelerator that they had I think they had 20 people participate with business ideas in this idea accelerator, and only 2 of them were from the college. The rest were from the community or outside, which is really impressive to me. So we're going to find ways to support not only the accelerators, but the incubators and the things that will come from the Lucas Center. I'm excited about that as well. One thing that does come up more maybe in the city than anywhere else, retention and expansion. The state of Georgia will tell you that 80 to 90% of new job creation comes from existing industries, and that's typical. We recognize that. So we want to make sure that we're giving existing industries whatever they need to grow here in the community. So we're making sure that we're in front of them and helping solve any issues that they may have. We did host 3 job fairs this past year, hosted a foreign trade zone and exporting event that went well. And up within the retention and expansion aspect of this, we support small business through our Share the Future Fund. Regina, if you'll, just some of the businesses that have participated in that fund over the past year and a half, you'll recognize a lot of city-based businesses. The Share the Future Fund is actually 3 different buckets, if you will. We will partner with a business up to $10,000 matching grant if they are adding equipment that is innovative to their business and increases their efficiency. So there's the innovation piece. Placemaking, if you're improving the aesthetics of the building or your business, we'll match you dollar for dollar up to $10,000 for everything that you spend in your business. And then the last is educating. If you get a new piece of equipment or something changes in your business and you need to educate your employees, we'll partner with you to make sure that you can train people up and keep your staff. So again, those are certainly not, I don't have the number, but we've done a lot more of these grants. These just happen to be the ones that I picked out quickly that are city-based. Some of them might be just outside of the city limits, but anyway, but we're happy to support small businesses in that way. And one of the things that I feel is the biggest benefit to this fund is its simplicity. We try not to make this an onerous process for the business. You can go to our website, you fill out one form, staff reviews it. If it's in line with the goals of the fund, we recommend it to the board at the next meeting. So depending on when you submit your form, it'll be less than a month before you're before our board and you can have your check the next day. So we make that extremely easy and efficient so that people can get the money and do the projects as quickly as possible. So going forward, we'll continue with the Share the Future Fund and continue to seek out those businesses that are expanding and attempt to remove any impediments to growth that might exist in the community. So again, I know that was a lot and high level, and I wanted to stay on time here, but certainly wanted to make sure that you were aware of our priorities. If there's anything that we can partner on or better serve the city, certainly we'd love to hear that.
I'm curious, the new Buc-ee's that's coming in, was that something that y'all sought, or did we meet certain demographics criteria that they were looking for, or they just sort of wanting to expand down?
They were wanting to expand this way. They looked in this region. We were
Yeah.
contacted by their real estate director. They had several sites within a 20, 30 mile area. But they needed to be a certain distance from their other stores. They like areas with a lot of tourism and activity already, and they need an interchange with little development. So we really had a unique interchange in exit 42 sitting there with no buildings.
Right. Thank you.
A lot of those folks out on 99 are not happy with it. I know several people out there and they're gonna lose their way of life.
Well, so a couple of points to that. So Buc-ee's is as close to the interchange as you can get per DOT regulations, their entrance and interchange, their lighted intersection. You couldn't get any closer to the intersection. So those cars that are coming off and going back hopefully won't impact the broader neighborhood to a great degree. The way I look at it, that growth was going to come to that interchange. I mean, that's a really unique asset in that area. A lot of housing coming. Buc-ee's is a good partner, so I feel they'll do as best they can by the community.
Yeah, we set the stage for that. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Ryan, one of the things that I think that we need worse than anything is some manufacturing. We have lost all of our manufacturing in the city. We had a manufacturing base up until the 80s. And somehow we need to figure out how to get it back, get some genuine welding, some steel procurement and that kind of thing going. And it was here. It was when Babcock and Wilcox closed down in 1981, so much went away. I mean, little fab shops, people that selling welding products, they're non-existent here anymore. And we need to look at that sort of thing. And that might be some of the stuff we can get from the automotive manufacturing up here. If we can't get the big stuff, get some of the smaller manufacturing, they'll be putting stuff together. And I'd figure out a way to figure out what their needs are, because that's really what we need. We need to have a base, a factory that will employ 100, 150, several hundred people. It's just a necessity to get us going again, to keep us to where we're a diverse economy in the Golden Isles, and the city really needs it. We really need it. One of the things that I wonder about too sometimes is that we have King and Prince Seafood sitting right down in the south end. You don't ever hear anything about them. It's almost like they're hidden back there. I'd prefer that people know that they're there and what we can do to help them and what we can do to help them grow. The same with Georgia Pacific. Everything that we hear from Georgia Pacific almost is odiferous. I'd like to change that. I'd like to let them know the benefits of what's going on here. And I'm sure you work with those kind of people. There's a wonderful opportunity here to re-educate and to make people thankful for Georgia. Panova's the same way. Thank the Lord we've got Panova here in the city, you know?
I couldn't agree more. The average manufacturing wage in Glenn County right now is a little over $72,000 a year. I mean, that's really good money. And these are careers that you can get with a 6-month, 12-month certificate from the technical college. So it's a great opportunity. I will say in the city, you've got a couple of really strong industries that have been here for a long time, and they don't always like to broadcast everything that they're doing. Some of those that you mentioned or those like them have made major investments over the last couple of years, and they don't necessarily broadcast it. But I'm thankful they're here, certainly, but also positive that they're going to continue to grow. I think one of the biggest impediment to any type of manufacturing in the city is just lack of place to put them. We just don't have, to my knowledge, any viable, very few anyway, viable industrial sites in the city.
Yeah, well, I think of Georgia Pacific, not only in terms of what they have out there, but I mean, they're one of the largest privately owned industries, corporations in this country, probably in the world. They have other divisions that we could go after, perhaps. There was a time when I promise you, I knew everybody that worked out at Brunswick Pulp and Paper Company. Georgia Pacific now, I don't. I couldn't even tell you who's managing. That's the position I'm coming from. I can tell you what their telephone number is out there. I've called it enough. But today we don't know. And I don't think I'm in a boat by myself. I want the positive things out there that they're doing. I'm familiar with some of them, but they need to come up with some of them, let people know what they're doing positively and get away from some of the negativity that we've got here. And just two other things that I would suggest to you is the manufacturing is needed. Technology is out there. It really is. And like we've got MAP right here, not only pharmaceuticals, but medical supplies. Medical supplies and pharmaceuticals both have been outsourced. They're going to come back. They're going to be done in the United States of America. We need to go after those. We need to figure out a way to get the reason we don't have more manufacturing here is essentially we're as far east as you can get without dropping in the Atlantic Ocean. And that's not going to change, hopefully. But we can take the stuff with 95 and with the corridors that we have today with light manufacturing, like the medical supplies, the pharmaceuticals, all the technology in the world that come here, if you can get it. So I just offer that to you. It's something I ponder all the time. I know it's out there. We just got to go get it. And I appreciate what you're doing very much. Really do. Thank you,
Commissioner.
Mr. Moore, thank you so much for your time. If there are no other questions from the commission. Oh,
I saw that, the slide that you had with some of the business logos for some of the businesses within the city. How many businesses have you all helped or facilitated within the city limits? What's the count on that?
I mentioned, I don't have the exact count. That's some of them. I can get you a list. I have a list. I just didn't print it.
Okay, yeah, because
And there's some that, for instance, I know I put Sister's Kitchen on there and then was
Mhm.
thinking about it afterwards. That's just outside. So
yeah, that's,
I'd have to look more closely.
okay, yeah, I would like to know the assistance that's being given to cities within, I mean, to businesses within the city, as well as how many are you helping within the city limits, not the county, not
Mhm.
the county part, but the city limits. So I would be interested to know that, and I echo the mayor's sentiments as well. We appreciate it. But I would like to know the specifics regarding the city proper.
I can provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We will now move on to public comment from Mr. John Guest. I'm not sure if he is present. No, Mr. Guest is not present, so we will move forward on the agenda to our public hearing appeal, alcohol beverage license, Family Dollar Store number 24826. Mrs. Brown. How you doing today?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here to present an appeal for Family Dollar Store number 24826. They were denied an alcohol license back at the commission meeting on July 6th. He is here to present his case.
Appreciate you, Ms. Brown. Thank you.
Could I do a
Oh, yeah, yeah.
preamble to the hearing?
Yes, please.
I think this is probably the first hearing that's come back for a outright denial vote for the city commission. So I just wanted to go over what the code, the section states with regards to this hearing and why we're having it tonight. Any decision that denies, suspends, revokes, places on probation, an alcohol license triggers the right of the applicant or the license holder to have the ability of a hearing in which they can present additional evidence and what they might want to supplement the record with for review and consideration by the city commission to seek out hopefully a determination, a new, vote by the city commission. So Mr. Weigel's here on behalf of the applicant, and I think everybody probably recalls the hearing, the public hearing for the initial decision for Family Dollar. But they have exercised their rights under the city's code for this hearing tonight.
Appreciate that, City Attorney Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. If I may be.
Yes, please.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address you on this matter. It's great to be back in the city of Brunswick. As you recall, my firm represents Family Dollar Stores Incorporated, and we handle all licensing matters for Family Dollar locations. Although Family Dollar's application, as Mr. Corey stated, was originally denied for the sale of beer and wine for off-premise consumption only, I did want to provide some additional information that perhaps was not in the record prior to the last hearing to share background information and specific steps Family Dollar has taken to address concerns raised by the commission at the prior hearing. And the information and documents that I'm about to reference are included in the packet. I'll do my best to explain the organization of it. So these steps reflected in the enclosed documents include implementing the enclosed public safety plan created solely for the store in addition to the general alcohol plan implemented at every Family Dollar store. And that is the second document behind my letter, which is just essentially word for word, so you don't have to follow along with that. And I've also included the enclosed letters and emails that I sent to the Neighborhood Planning Assembly, which is the College Park and Magnolia Park Planning Assembly, which covers that Family Dollar location, addressed to Pastor Jeffrey Murchison and Co-Chair Spanlin Dixon, seeking to discuss any concerns that they might have with approving this application. And I also included records reflecting incident reports from interactions the Brunswick Police Department has had at this Family Dollar store over the prior 2 years. So this was from August 1st, 2020 to August 1st, 2022, which was a couple weeks ago. I've only included the 3 incidents that warranted written narratives by the responding officer. I do have all of the documents I did receive. So if you want the full physical copy in front of you, I have that as well. As the enclosed letters to the NPA reflect, Family Dollar recognizes that in every community that it is privileged to operate, but especially those stores seeking the further privilege to sell beer and wine, there exists utmost importance to cultivate and maintain positive and responsive relationships with community leaders such as the NPA. When addressing both broad and specific concerns raised by community leaders, Family Dollar further recognizes the unique and heightened concerns the privilege to begin selling beer and wine can raise in a community. As those letters further reflect, while the information described therein and enclosed in the public safety plan, which was also sent along with those correspondence, while this hopefully speaks directly to any specific or general concerns the commission may have, Family Dollar, of course, understands that this may not address all of the specific and localized concerns that may still exist or may arise in the future. However, if the safety issues reflected in the attached incident reports changes at any point in the future, hopefully the enclosed information importantly conveys that Family Dollar's commitment and tools for addressing any present or future concerns unique to the community, and could provide a template to formulate similar policies and procedures to respond to any concerns not yet known. And I just wanted to point out a few quick examples that are present in the safety plan at the moment. Although none of the police reports reflect any, for example, violent incidents that would warrant needing a security officer there. Presently, that Family Dollar location has a specific policy where it instructs their associates to contact a third-party security company. Additionally, the landlord that owns the land itself, owns the parking area, and is responsible for all of that. To the extent that it would, the need would arise to perhaps leverage that relationship to have a security guard there at that location if the need warranted it. That would be certainly something that could be addressed in the report. And further, if you look at the 3 specific incidents that are reflected in the incident reports, 2 of those do address, although the Family Dollar associate immediately responded positively, I would say, as reflected in those incident reports. There were incidents of camera issues mentioned in 2 of those areas. As you'll see in this report, that reflects the parking areas that Family Dollar does not have control over. But again, to the extent that it would need to be reflected in further safety plans, it could, of course, do that. And the remaining information that I've included in the letter was information that I provided at the last hearing. But I also wanted to specifically address the City of Brunswick's local alcohol ordinances, which Family Dollar will train all associates to the local rules and regulations pertaining to off-premises licensees and employees, including but not limited to the prohibition against dispensing any alcohol beverage to a customer in an open container, which Family Dollar already prohibits. Prohibition on any person drinking any alcohol beverage from a can, bottle, or glass on the streets, sidewalks, rights of way, or parking lots within Family Dollar's private control. And again, as I mentioned, although they do not have control over that parking area, of course, if the need arose, they could address that with that relationship. And finally, the duty to train employees and ensure compliance with all local ordinances governing the sale of alcohol, which they do. In conclusion, Family Dollar greatly appreciates the opportunity to conduct business in the state of Georgia, and specifically in the city of Brunswick. While we understand the initial concerns from the commission regarding safety concerns, as the attached Brunswick police records support, hopefully, the additional information set forth above and enclosed herein hopefully addresses the concerns raised at the prior hearing. we contend that those concerns are more appropriately addressed to liquor stores or on-premise sales where persons get intoxicated at the location and then re-enter the public area. Family Dollar respectfully contends the store is not comparable to those situations. It does not market to those individuals. And as the incident reports reflect, they do not have those types of issues. So Family Dollar respectfully contends the store is not comparable and requests you grant the appeal and allow beer and wine sales for off-premise consumption only at the Brunswick store. And as before, I'm of course available to address any concerns, answer any questions the commission might have.
Daniel, can you tell me your last name?
Oh, Weigel.
Weigel?
Weigel, yeah.
Perfect, Mr. Weigel. I want to at least start out by saying, one, my initial concerns with Family Dollar for me didn't have to do with safety. You know, I have heard of no great safety concerns about Family Dollars throughout our community or in any particular location. My most basic concern is that anyone, for me, and again, this doesn't have to be in any statute, you know, we vote different directions all the time, but for me, anyone coming to us to ask for a liquor license would need to have met with the MPA as a whole. And I know you tried to reach out. I saw in here where you had the emails to Pastor Mutchinson and the co-chair. And it's unfortunate maybe that they missed that or didn't get back, but we know that that is a volunteer position.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I understand. That's why I didn't want,
Yeah, no
harass them
doubt.
too much with that, because I did remember the concerns you expressed.
Understand. And so for me, it would behoove, Family Dollar or any business coming forward to maybe get in touch with Mr. Bravo internally with our city who runs the neighborhood planning associations. It used to be Dr. Nixon, but it's changed over to Mr. Bravo. And so to just find a way to get on their regularly scheduled meeting whenever they hold one, not necessarily talking to kind of the chair or the co-chair to say, do you guys have any initial concerns, but to take it before them and their group. So that's nothing against Family Dollar. That's just my basis on it. The second question that I have for you all is, I know this is a new model for you all, beer and wine sales. How many, I guess, in percentage wise, if you even had this, what percentage of your stores are currently selling beer and wine and what percentage aren't?
I don't have the exact numbers on the percentage, and I apologize for that. As I think I mentioned this at the prior hearing, this is I know that whatever group purchased Family Dollar recently, they've
Okay.
kind of done an overhaul to the licensing process, and that's when our team kind of came along. So we're kind of trying to correct a lot of the things that were going wrong with the relationships with the communities. So
Okay.
it's kind of a give and take. So the numbers in it, and I apologize for not having an exact number on that. But I think I mentioned this at the prior meeting, where it's all it's a very subjective and individualized approach to determine, both legally and subjectively what the best locations are to begin selling beer and wine.
So not all of the locations sell beer and wine?
No.
Okay. And then and I know you all are legal for Family Dollar, so it's not like you would have intricate knowledge of how they are making this decision internally, but is there any connection that you have with Family Dollar that could tell us what information that they use to say this was somehow a viable option for beer and wine sales?
Again, I'm not privy to those business, and I do my best to become as informed as possible so I can answer questions like that. And I do know it depends on the competition in the area. For example, I know the price point is similar to grocery stores and, for example, Walmart. I don't know if that's the exact reason right here, but I'm sure they have consumer data saying if someone's getting all of their things from Family Dollar and they're getting all this and they're realizing they can now get their beer and wine from Walmart, then they're going to begin all those things from the Walmart if it's in that area. And again, that's just an example. I don't know if that's the exact calculus that kind of went into it with this location, because there are a lot of other factors and considerations that come into play.
Sure. Do you guys have are there any Family Dollars in the county? Do you know?
I know there are there. I will- I'll
Sure.
defer. So I know there are others in the city of Brunswick.
Okay.
I think this is the first location that we're seeing one at, but again, don't quote me directly on
Always
that.
Street's got a Family Dollar, don't they?
Okay. So,
They had-
and so to your knowledge, Family Dollar hadn't gone before the county commission to ask them for approval of any liquor or, I mean,
No.
I'm sorry, beer or wine. So,
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Perfect. I will, again, well, I guess, let me ask two things. I will restate my first thing, that my vote is completely based on the fact that I truly believe any business should have to go before the NPA to the best of their ability. My second question is to City Attorney Corey. Because this is the first time, I don't know in this appeals process, what are the two tracks? Of course, there's the yes track where everything goes, but if it continues to be a no, what is it a no? And then there's a 30, 60, 90-day period for which they can come back, or?
That's correct. So if it is a no, it'd be deemed as a denial. The code is silent. The city's code is silent as to a further appeals process. So, in my opinion, it would fall within the application, which I believe is a 6-month waiting period before they can reapply.
Okay, I appreciate you. Thank you, Mr. Weigel. That's all the questions I have. To the commission.
I was looking at the information that you provided on your attempts to contact those in the NPA. Like the mayor, I'm concerned about the NPA, but my concerns were further as well. And that was on the safety side of things. And I see that you addressed some of that in here. And then some of it is reference to the property owner. Even with the property owner having some responsibility, I still think that the entrepreneur or the business has a certain extent of responsibility as well. You're responsible for what you're selling out of that store. You're responsible for what happens if someone consumes too much of an item, and then there's something that happens, because we're not only looking at Family Dollar selling the beer and wine from that location, but now there's another location that's also selling it. And so the matters are compounded and the safety issues are compounded for me in that essence. And then the saturation of communities with certain things. So for me, that is a safety concern as well. But when I looked at the documents that you presented in your attempt to contact those in the NPA, I'm looking at dates and times that these attempts were made. So you made an attempt on the 11th, and then you're presenting on the 17th. So for me, 6 days kind of helped me out with that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not
So-
ample
sorry,
time for
I
me.
had attempted reaching them over. I had been provided their phone numbers as well.
Okay.
And again, to my earlier point, and obviously that falls on my responsibility, but I did not want to inundate them. So it was I only sent that letter once I had not been able to make contact and was hoping, more direct and kind of, if you look at both the email and the letter, it's a fairly extensive thing where, I realized that it was coming close. So I wanted to make sure that I got everything out there while also continuing to try to engage in
Okay.
a conversation about it. And ultimately, that's what I wanted it to be, a conversation. I didn't want it to be, I need to get this rubber stamp to come,
Right.
bring it to the commission to get approved. I wanted to have that conversation. And if I, misinterpreted and mistook that to mean, I don't know if I phrased it incorrectly, where I said, if you do have any issues, and then presuming that they did not, and that, again, that falls on me. But that's why I contacted them over the phone, and then I've reached out over email, I've reached out again and continue to reach out over the phone. But again, I know these, as the mayor mentioned, they're very busy, they're volunteers, and I didn't want to inundate them and just, one of the things I point out is that I wanted to be a resource going forward, to the extent that they did have any concerns, because that's one of the things I pride myself on personally. And that's why I included my card with each of those packets, because at the end of the day, Family Dollar, to be a successful business, wants to be a great corporate citizen. And I take my role in that. I have a lot of pride in that. And that's why I love the mayor's suggestion to be able to reach out to that. And that's why, if you take a look at what I've written there, I would have loved the opportunity to address anything that existed. And to the extent that I mistook that to mean that they didn't have any issues, again, that of course falls on me.
Okay, I'm just making sure that I'm understanding the information that's been provided, and the timeframes. I don't want it to have been something whereas you reached out to them on the 11th, and that's just enough time to be able to show that I at least made an attempt before I came to the meeting. But in essence, it really wasn't enough time to be an adequate attempt to have contacted them. But if you've tried to contact them by phone initially and you weren't successful in doing that, then that's another added avenue in which you did try to speak with them regarding our concerns with the NPA.
And sorry if I
Okay,
cut
no,
you
that
off, but,
that's okay. And I don't know if I'm supposed to have gotten this or not, because it looks like maybe some handwritten notes. Did anybody else?
Oh, if I put handwritten notes, that was just to reference.
Oh,
the
okay. I didn't know if you
safety
meant for,
plan.
if
No,
this
no,
was
no.
yours, or am I
Yeah,
supposed to have
yeah,
this or
if
not?
there are, it's
Okay,
nothing privileged or anything, I
okay,
promise. No.
okay, because I'm like,
It's
okay,
only a reference to
Okay.
the safety plan, if there exists any handwriting on there.
okay. So what are you saying here? That if needed, there could be extra cameras added,
Yes.
extra security guards. And then I think one is saying negative something.
Yeah, I meant, if there were negative interactions, because I've seen that at other stores where the
Mhm.
police report will say, I tried to get X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
One thing I was very happy to see in that report was them saying, we immediately went back, though there were sometimes issues with cameras. And that's what I, point out in that second point that I have there, which is, if this was something where this was consistently happening, where officers were showing up saying, we've got this report, we need to see the cameras, and it's not working, that's something that we need to, that certainly needs to be addressed right then, but also within the plan. And what I've, to address one of the points you made previously about the landlord owning the surrounding area, I 100% agree with you that their business there, they have to take responsibility. The point I was trying to emphasize is if they need to leverage that relationship with, say, hey, we've had these reports, we've had these incidents, it's our duty, we need to take care of our customers, then taking that extra added step to say, what are our options, and I don't know if that would be in their contract with their landlord or some other step that needed to be taken to provide, for example, a security guard, if it rose to that
Okay.
concern, or provide access to cameras in that area, if it rose to that concern.
And the mayor went into something that I was intending on addressing as well. How was the decision made for that specific location to be the model for selling the beer and wine?
No, I don't know if I would use the word model. And again, I wish I had more information on that specific decision making. I do know from the standpoint of our team, we take on the legal aspects, but making sure it's all, I believe I went into this quite extensively in the last one, making sure all the legal requirements are met. Unfortunately, we're not as privy to the exact business determination, but it's again, probably the subjective, and both objective and subjective factors I mentioned earlier. If they're realizing that their model customer has begun, getting all their things at X store because of this product not being available, whether that's alcohol or anything else, I know that is, for example, one of the factors that could be considered. But again, I'm just speculating to a certain extent on that.
Understood. Okay.
Could Could I offer a point of clarification? I misspoke earlier. It is it's a 12-month grace period if the license is revoked. If the license is denied, they can reapply as they see fit.
So it's no limit.
No, ma'am. So it would just, but it would be the continued background checks, administrative fees, and I think we've seen one recently. And I do think that's something that we look to address in our forthcoming alcohol ordinance amendment. Someday we'll be back. Sorry about that.
So, Mr. Weigel, where do you live?
Oh, my firm's located in Atlanta.
In Atlanta, big town,
Yes.
huge town. We're a small town. We're very keen on our neighborhood areas. But at the same token, I can certainly appreciate the goal of Family Dollar to expand their business, secure their clientele. But if you lived here, you would realize there is no alcohol desert anywhere
Sure.
in our city. None. Food desert, that's another story. Alcohol desert, no. And I think too, the fact that I'm concerned that you're open until 10 o'clock at night, that particular shopping center and the large parking area has collected and produced a lot of systemic issues that the city has had to deal with. Those are my biggest concerns. Those are things that you might not be aware of or Family Dollar's not aware of. So, we understand what your goals and objectives are. However, our job is to be as cognizant as possible on what the benefits are to our citizenry.
Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to
that's
cut you off.
okay.
Oh, no, and I was just, even though I'm from a very small town in Kentucky, when I actually do these licensing matters, a lot of them are in small towns just like this. That's one of the parts I enjoy most about it. And, to your exact point, every single area, whether it's in a city or a small town, has those unique localized concerns. And that's what I do my best to address. I'm kind of fly by night. I'm not always going to be perfect with it. But to the point, I realize from the outlook, it looks like, just another store with alcohol. And again, I don't want to sound cynical with it, but to the extent that that might be part of the business reason behind, to be able to compete with that and offer it to their loyal customers that they have that, offering, as I said, the option to get their beer and wine there to just have with their dinner, that's the fundamental reason, broad reason I would say behind it is to, provide their customers and their family oriented atmosphere, that option, just as any other business would like to have.
Any additional questions, Mr.?
I don't have a question, but I'm glad you cleared up for me that you're from Kentucky because I know a Weigel in Alabama and I was going to ask you because it's not a common name.
That could either be a good or a bad thing.
As
So.
everybody says up here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Mr. Weigel, number one, want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming down and thank you for the work that you've put in so far. So with that, I will open it for a motion or timeout, public hearing. We will now open it.
This is not a public
This is
hearing.
appeal. It's an
So it's an appeal.
Just an
Okay.
appeals hearing. Yep.
Well, it went through public hearing.
At this time, then, if we have no other questions or concerns from the commission, I will open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the license for Family Dollar.
We have a first on the floor. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion fails. And it reversed back to the question, is there a motion on the table?
I'll make a motion that we deny the alcohol permit application for Family Dollar Store number 24826 for the retail sale of beer and wine.
Here in the first, do I have a second? Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion fails. Thank you so much. Thank you all so, Ms. Brown. I appreciate you. I'd like to take a quick note. City Manager McDuffie, can we be sure that as we have alcohol licenses that come up, that we go ahead and give them the MPA schedule for the next scheduled meeting? And maybe the contact information for whomever is the leader of the MPA that they're at. I know they may not be able to get in touch with the person, but all of them have regular scheduled meetings that they could attend.
Yeah, we have taken that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And can I add one thing to that and just
Yeah.
making sure that those MPA chairs know what to do with that information.
Right.
I mean, I hate to assume they
And we
know
would,
and
yeah.
then the word doesn't get out.
I will make direct contact with them for that purpose. Thank you.
We will now move on to appointments for the URA. There is 4 open spots. I will be appointing 3 tonight as one. I think there is some challenge to their proximity inside the mileage ring, but that needs to be checked on, and I don't want to make a hasty decision on that. So the first person is a reappointment, Mr. Andrew Smith, who's already been appointed. He was appointed to an expired term, so he will now be in his first full term. So I'll be appointing him. Miss Denise Taylor will be appointed. Currently, in her contact information, she has not provided her address, although I know for a fact she lives inside of the city. So we would need to have that address on record. My third appointee is Miss Taylor Ritz, and she has her address planted. So those are the 3, and then there is one that remains open. And if the mileage doesn't work out, we'll have to, find someone else to fit into that. I think going back, I think it's a 5-mile radius. And so we'll look into that. So,
See Taylor, what was Taylor's name?
yep,
Okay.
Taylor. No, that she's saying Taylor Ritz. You attached 2 additional applications.
So it's Taylor Ritz.
Ritz, RITZ, just like Ritz DA.
Okay.
And she is been here for 10+ years, soccer coach at GA, works at one of our downtown purveyors, and has worked and lived in the downtown community for, I would say, most of her life. So appreciate to having a little youth over there. So with that, we will move on to items to be considered for approval, and the approval of regularly scheduled minutes. I'll open it for a motion.
So move.
Here in a second.
Second.
Here in the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, that motion passes. Consider approval for the designation. Oh, I'm sorry, that was amended. So now we'll go to 8. Consider approval of revision to the Downtown Development Authority area boundary. Director Hill.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. And on the other side of the meeting. So from time to time, the Downtown Development Authority reviews its boundary of its operation area. And the last time this was done was in 2017, when we retracted the boundaries somewhat. They had been extended south along Martin Luther King Boulevard in the anticipation of a commercial development kind of where the Wainwright Field is, that was to be associated with Liberty Harbor. So since that didn't happen, we retracted that. And then also Highway 17, we did go up Highway 17 a little bit further at that time, but that was pulled back because the URA was assigned that area. So in looking at where development is happening, and especially some new development along Albany Street, north of F Street, we have the Roxy Theater, the Coastal Brunswick African American Culture Center. That is also involving some for-profit aspects of it. We have the two development sites, the car wash there at G and Albany Street, and then the old, I guess it was a fish and chips place on the west corner where the sign is still remaining, and they've put some artwork in the sign. There's also the Burned Restaurant on G Street, just off of Albany. Rosby's Convenience Store, they've been in business a long time, and every time we've moved the boundaries, we've kind of left them out inadvertently. And then Cahoon's Barbershop and that commercial building on I Street. If you haven't seen that building, a lot of people miss it because it's a street you don't go down very often, but that is a great building. And it is ideal for some redevelopment in that neighborhood there. So we feel that these, with the interest in things happening along Albany Street, and then the Risley School, of course, is there also, that this square would be a logical thing to add on to our area. And the DDA board did look at this at their meeting last week and approve it, or recommend approval.
I appreciate that, Director Hill. Thank you for the pictures. I will open it up to the commission for questions.
Well, I'd just like to make a quick comment. I think this does a much better way of bridging growth areas, and not just growth areas, but heritage areas, that are pertinent to our community and need to have the same opportunities towards grants and different types of incentives to help those areas flourish and develop further the way they really should. So
I think with Jay's opening on the corner there, that'll
yeah.
even bring more interest into that corridor. And that's part of what was, I guess, in the 20s and 30s called Black Wall Street, was that area of Gloucester and Albany. I don't think it went up too far up Albany, but that is that area.
I've got a list of questions. And I was able to send you one that I had today. And thank you for sending that information back to me. So my first question is, what exactly does this mean for this area?
So the commercial or for-profit enterprises in that area can take advantage of our facade grant program, the Jumpstart grant for new businesses. They can participate in the advertising opportunities that we have. We now have two electronic billboards that we offer a discounted rate for businesses in our district to advertise on. We can still take advantage of some of the design opportunities that the state Main Street program has. And of course, we would also continue to partner with the Economic Development Authority and the Economic Development Department of the city to try to boost the businesses there. But, it's and assistance with historic preservation tax credits if it's a historically significant building.
Okay, so that's some, so what's the amount of the, Jumpstart grant?
The Jumpstart grant is up to $2,000 for costs that can be pretty much anything except buying things you're going to resell or your salary. If Felicia's Bakery needs some display cases, you can buy display cases. Kendra's shoe store may need a cash register system, you can buy that. Pretty much anything you need to start up the business, even rent deposits, utility deposits. Just not inventory or salaries.
Okay.
And then the facade grant, we've recently changed that. It is now $1,000 per 30 feet of frontage. So if your building is, let's say 62 feet, then you could get $3,000 in facade grant funds rather than just the 1,000 per address it used to be. And then we also increased the signage portion of that up to $1,000 from 500 because signs are more expensive
Those
now.
are loans,
No, those are grants.
those are grants.
We do have the 2 loan programs that have been less than sought after in the ARPA funds, but we also have revolving loan funds available from the state that can be used in our area at very favorable rates of 2%.
So the facade grant can go up to, what's the maximum amount?
We really don't have, we've been using $5,000, but really it doesn't say there's a maximum amount. So if your bakery was located in a building over 1,500 feet in frontage, we could potentially give you more money for that.
Okay, so
But
there's
that's a
not
pretty
really-
darn big.
So it's not really a designated maximum amount.
Right.
Um,
Or until we run out of money.
okay.
You know.
So what's the thought process in including this area? Because, this area has been in need of these things already. This isn't something new. It's not changing the understanding that this was at one time a thriving business corridor. So why now, all of a sudden, the infusion of this thought process to include it into the covered area when it should have been included?
When we were doing the work with Ms. Fuller on the African American Culture Center to try to get that funding from the state, we realized that there was more interest in that area. And, you know, most of the redevelopment had been happening downtown, a little bit on Norwich Street, but now with, in this area particularly, for a long time, there was Rosby's and there was the Roxy's fairly new. It's been there a long time, but as a business that, and the bookstore across the street has been there, but with just a few little businesses there and not a lot of interest from anybody in looking at the buildings, it hadn't been on our radar. So now that when Ms. Fuller took over that building and started that, we started looking more at that area, and especially since it's on my way back from Winn-Dixie, I have
You
been
know,
paying
a
more
lot of
attention to
what
what's there.
Matthew is saying is there's got to be demand there, and
That's,
there hasn't been any demand. And we met, Julie and I met, I can't tell you how many years out on Norwich Street. And sometimes we would be the only ones out there to meet. It's just finally got futile that, I mean, we didn't give up, but finally, you know, you get to the point to where the demand isn't there, that you look for demand. So that's
So I-
where we are.
so I guess my mindset is, I understand that now there's demand. So anytime there's a demand, you're gonna look at it. But I guess my perception of DDA and what DDA is supposed to do is to stimulate that demand. And so this is not a request because DDA stimulated that demand. This is a request because the entrepreneur brought it to DDA's attention and say, y'all hadn't been giving us no attention.
Right, because they
So
went where we didn't
that's
think
what
they
I'm
were gonna go. We weren't expecting them to go yet,
Okay.
you know,
So
down,
that's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm getting at. Is that how this is going to play itself out? Is that unless the entrepreneur says, okay, y'all hadn't been looking at us, we need you all to start looking at us now? Or is there going to be the cultivating of DDA being just like EDA, that they're dealing with certain things out this way, and when we come back this way, those things are not being dealt with. So that's why I'm asking these questions.
we are starting to look a little more proactively at available properties. And especially now that Dylan is freed up from some of his other duties that he's been focused on. We have some things we're gonna talk with the city manager maybe this week, that we want to bring to you about having some kind of like the development authority does. Here's some sites and here's everything you need to know about the site. And here are all the incentives that are available with that site to try to guide some of our development in a more thoughtful process. You know, we have thought that once downtown kind of filled up, it would naturally go down Gloucester a little bit and then up Norwich Street. So having it hop down, and I think it's Jay's, that project at the corner of Albany and Gloucester has really concentrated interest in that area.
Okay.
That if we hadn't had Judge Douglas starting that, it might have just skipped on down to the old tire store. Really, I thought the tire store property would be the next one.
Yeah, we went back and included that at another meeting.
Yeah, that's the area runs down there and that's in that new enterprise zone.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still got some more.
You know, talk about Jay's Fish and Chips there. That was quite a building there that was on the corner of Albany Street that got taken down. The old hotel there. It would have been magnificent today, restored on that corner. It didn't get it. The business in there, the last owner had a shoe shop in there. And it became vacant and run
Used to be a
down.
Hotel there too.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. It was a hotel, you know, for many years. You had all kinds of hotels on Gloucester Street, hotels, motels, tourist boards. They were there.
All right, my last two questions, Matthew. What effect and impact will this have on the Rise Risley project? And why haven't conversations been held with Ms. Hamilton?
The Rice Risley is a nonprofit entity, so that's outside of our, I mean, we can do we will work with them and have been working a little bit with them early on, since lately we haven't had a lot of going on with them. But so as they develop, if they're still going to follow having some commercial activity there, we can certainly help with that. But Rise, the nonprofit group itself is outside of our funding mechanism. Now we can apply for grants with them, like we did with Miss Fuller. We can do some of that work, and we're always happy to work with them.
Okay, and my absolute last question is why hasn't some of this stuff already been done with some of these businesses? Because it's like there is the appearance that the city isn't maximizing these opportunities for these businesses and other locations outside of what was considered the immediate downtown proper. And now we're going into an expansion. And so why did it have to take this move for, and this is to the city manager and whomever else in economic development, why hasn't this already been done? And why are these opportunities appearing that they're only afforded through the DDA when all of this should be encompassed in its entirety through the city, economic development, department.
Well, the city manager did, when we were last year working on the ARPA fund, what we could do with those. She did make sure that we expanded that to include outside of our immediate operating area. As far as facade grants and things like that, sometimes those are a little trickier for a city government to do than for the DDA, because that's what we're designed to do, is interact with the private sector. There are DDAs that have much wider areas. St. Mary's, for example, goes all the way out Highway, is that 40?
40, Highway 40.
To the city limits, but that's a huge area that's vastly different from one end to the other. So Brunswick DDA has always tried to stay in the core commercial areas of Newcastle, Norwich, Gloucester. We could expand outside of that. I see down the road, there are certain areas of the city that probably would benefit from another urban Main Street program, where it's so different in that area that it just doesn't apply to like downtown or Gloucester or Norwich Street. And that's a new thing that's just come about, is the urban Main Streets. But we have been working with the COO and the Economic Development Department to try to get him more in tune with what's available. I know the Economic Development Authority, you had asked, the majority of their recipients of the Share the Future grants have been in the city. So they're very in tune with businesses that are in the city, maybe outside of our area, but they have programs that can help them, like the facade grant can.
Yeah, because when I did hear from and talk to Ms. Fuller, she was under the urgency of wanting this to happen, but her pretense was that we can't get anything else unless we become a part of this. There's nothing else offered to us. And for me, I don't like to hear that.
Well, we did direct her towards the revolving loan fund, but what she was in need of was a little different. Now and she fell into that gap between COVID and now. So when she came along, the grant money from the ARPA funds was exhausted already, but she wouldn't have qualified because she didn't exist before the end of COVID. So she kind of falls.
Whoa.
There's going to be a lot of thunder. There's a big lightning strike. So wow. She fell into kind of a gap area there. But it was Ms. Fuller. And, when she started, we weren't expecting her to do a for-profit arm. So we helped her with the museum portion, the nonprofit, but then the for-profit tour business was a little bit of a surprise.
Okay.
I'd like to also note that, our economic development arm has done a lot, especially since I've been here. I have been, I started with COVID and we've had to come out of that. And so a lot of things had slowed down, but economic development had, all of the enterprise zone, opportunity zone, the reports that we had earlier in the year upon their accomplishments and rebuilding. We've established the loan programs. We've had advertising, marketing. There's been a lot done, and I don't know why some of the business may have been falling through the gap. We expanded the program to build back the business so that it would be citywide. We've advertised that. So I can't explain why they haven't, but I feel like we have done a very good job of putting the city information out and providing service to the businesses. And we will continue to build upon that. Just as Matthew said, right now, we're going out looking, trying to find places that we can establish what the needs of those business locations are and what may be, things that we can do up front before business even come and ask about them. So we're anticipating, trying to build those out as much as we can. And I think, the staff has done a wonderful job of that. Right now, we are without an economic development director. So that's going to hold us back a little bit, but we are moving to try and keep all the programs that we have in place moving forward.
And you haven't had that position very long either. I mean, it just hasn't been here and there hasn't been the support from Matthew to do what he needed to do, plus the funding, so.
Yeah, and I think we have been
for real
working.
Reasons.
Working together. I think Matthew and when Travis was here, we were meeting regularly and, every time we had something come forth, we would not only look at it for the downtown area, but how it can impact Norwich and the rest of the city and areas up Altama as well.
As long as I can remember, I can't specify exactly, but the city of Brunswick has always worked with small business people, even though it wasn't announced. I cannot be specific. I wish I could, but I know loans were made. A lot of the car washes got loans back in the old days through the city manager's office. And I'm not sure if you were on the commission at that time.
Yeah, you
or
before
not.
my time.
I'm old, I know.
Those all predate
There's
a lot of
been a
us.
lot of help extended out there. There really has.
And, Matthew, correct me if I'm wrong, but the area has to be contiguous. You can't have a spot here and a spot there, correct? The boundaries have to be,
I'm pretty sure they have to
I'm
be
pretty sure
contiguous.
too.
I don't know that I've ever seen one that's not.
yeah,
Um, the
unless
city
that's
attorney is
just
furiously looking
that.
that up as we speak, but
And there's no, there's no restriction as to the square footage amount.
no, it's not like an enterprise zone
Okay,
or some
where
of the
it's at.
others where you're limited to a certain percentage of the property.
tax
Um,
rate.
I mean,
Yeah.
conceivably, the DDA area could be the whole city, but
Okay,
we don't have a lot of things we can do with residential property other than redevelopment of a mixed use. So we try to stay out of residential areas.
okay.
Um,
Perfect. The only question I have, Matthew, is, and this is just a question of my ignorance. When you're included in the DDA area, does that, if you are going to make changes to an existing structure, do you have to make it look like a certain thing, or does it have to be inside of a certain bound, or does it have to, if there are changes to how businesses have to do those things, has that been communicated to the businesses in the area?
Changing our boundary does not have any effect on that. In this particular area, anything south of H Street is in the Old Town National Register Historic District. So they've been since 2000 in an area where they would need to have the Historic Preservation Board review their plan before they can get a building permit. But we don't, just because it's in our area now, doesn't affect that. Of course, things like the I Street little commercial building there, if they were to do a major project with that, it might behoove them to go that route so that they can get the historic preservation tax credits. Even though it's outside of the Old Town District, it's in an area, the new Town Commons area that has been surveyed. So we could probably make a case for some of these buildings like that to receive those credits, even though they're not in an area. And if we see an opportunity for someone who's going to do something to a building, we would talk with them and say, hey, if you think about doing this, you might be able to get some benefit over here.
Right.
Or,
right.
If you're doing that, that's really not worth trying to apply for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And so expanding you all's bounds doesn't add any additional regulation or money that they would have to pay for anything to that nature.
No.
Or- Perfect.
Now, if Felicia's Cupcake Store is applying for a facade grant and wants to paint her building the worst color possible, they might say no. We did that with the level 3 building. When they painted it that blue, they had applied for a facade grant. The board said no.
Okay.
We'll give you a grant for any other color but that. And they did it anyway, so.
That's it. So so if there is a remodeling decision and they apply for something, the board has kind of broad powers
If they're,
to-
right, if we're funding, giving
Yep.
funding.
Okay. Perfect.
That's very rare. The level 3 is the one case I know of.
I gotta see this color blue.
It was blue.
That's it. Any additional questions or
Yeah, I'll
comments?
just say, I'd love to see that little store, we talked about Rise Risley over there a minute ago, the little store on the corner. I would love to see it preserved and if people don't look out for it, looks to me like
It's in very good shape.
is it,
They've kept that up very
the
well.
character
Yeah.
there needs to be saved. It really does.
I just had one question. It might be for City Manager McDuffie. Now, the development opportunity where the restaurant is on the corner of Amherst and
G.
G Street.
Mhm.
So
Where the fire was.
will the city be responsible for taking that down or does the owner? Just wondering, because it's been like that for years.
No, unless it goes through,
Does this have is this the property that you're talking about is the cement, the
Yeah, block build.
Stucco.
block building,
Mhm.
the removal has already, I think it collapsed partially. up
Yeah.
top.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
purple or lavender on the outside.
From my recollection, we did, when we partially demolished the roof, because it actually collapsed onto a portion of G Street right there. We only demolished those portions of the roof because the way that that building is built is it's actually structurally sound because it's a full concrete block building. And I think that there was some hope at that time of a potential renovation, a restoration, because there may have even been talks of a historic implication. I don't know where it went from there, but I know that, condition certainly has not changed since then.
I will follow up with the CDBG to see, and planning, to see if they have any plans for it.
so unless it was part of some program like that, it wouldn't automatically get funded by the city.
Just was wondering because I thought about if it looks appeasing like that area, then someone would probably want to develop it more than what it looks like right now.
And there are some, that's kind of one of the thoughts we've had with the ARPA funds that nobody's wanted to borrow, that we may target some stressed properties such as that to try to do a little something that can get it into somebody else's hands.
Thank you.
Seeing any more questions and seeing no more questions, we will open it for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the resolution for the revision and expansion to the Downtown Development Authority boundaries as presented.
Here in the first, do I hear a second? In the first and the second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Director Hill.
Right, thank you.
We will now have a motion to adjourn to move into executive session for reasons of personnel and litigation.
Make a motion that we adjourn to executive session for personnel and litigation.
Here in the first, do I hear a second? Second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned. We are back from executive session. No action was taken. I will now open it for a motion to adjourn. Here in the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Here in the first and second, all those in favor show by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same. None. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.